I'm Mike Marzetta from Mind's Eye. One of my life's goals is to never grow up, never have to grow up. What could be worse? My wife, Christy, and I had kind of two fundamental values that kind of led to Mind's Eye's creation. We wanted to make the difference in lives of kids, and we wanted to have fun doing it. Mind's Eye Robotics is a high-quality, hands-on STEM education experience. We try to give the teacher a nice high-tech set of tools. We teach the teachers how to implement the curriculum in the lab, and 90% of it is them building, programming, formatting, designing, inventing. We want Mind's Eye to be cooler than Xbox. We want the kids to go there and come home from school every day and go, wow, I did the coolest thing today, and not necessarily know that they've learned all this stuff. Kids are very passionate about it. You can see that they're having fun, they're excited, they're energetic, they're in the zone. I hear a lot of it, how do I get my kids to do homework? Well, you make it fun, and they come in before class starts, and they stay late, and they're not thinking the extra credit. They're thinking, I'm having too much fun, and I can't put this dang project down. It's college level stuff that they're learning. Change and learning are synonymous, and if you don't change, you get left behind. You got new companies emerging using new technologies and have a high demand for high skilled labor. They're good paying jobs. It'd be great to just hire some local folk to fill those. I think that we've got that kind of potential here in Spokane. We're graduating some great kids. When STCU supports learning, they're supporting our future. So many other organizations out there are so bottom line profit focused. I think they lose focus on what's important. I see STCU helping the greater community outside of it to get better, to learn, to grow, and to progress. We're here to do good. We're here to help the greater good. We're very proud to be able to partner with STCU to that end. I think what's a better place to help the greater good than with helping kids? I'm Mike Marzetta, and STCU is here for good.
Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business talk show with your host, Ryan McNeice. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Maggie Kazemba, Spokane Elite Dance Studio. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it was tough to schedule this. You're a busy person. You got a lot of things going on, and specifically, the dance studio is keeping you extremely busy.
Very busy.
My understanding is 2010 is when you opened the dance studio.
Correct.
Okay, but let's go back even a little further than that. How did you even come to the idea of starting the dance studio? Obviously, your whole life has been spent in dance of some sort, right?
Yes, so dance has been a huge part of my life, but I never had intended to open up a dance studio.
So what was the
it was
kind of that lightning strike?
Well, it was a crappy situation that led to it.
You
so
actually hear that more often than not, that there's some instance that forces somebody to make decisions left or right.
That's exactly what happened. So I got my master's in architecture from WSU. We were talking about that. Yes, go Cougs. And I had been doing my internship with a great company here in town, and was pretty much on track to get hired there. But
start that career.
Yeah,
because
right
going
after.
way back, I think you'd indicated in conversation that all the way back to 4 years old, you'd said, I think I'm going to be an architect.
Yeah. Yep.
Was there a reason? Was there somebody in the family?
I think it sounded cool. It just
cool.
The idea of it sounded really cool. And I liked building things. I was always very much, using my hands, and even the way that now, that I look at how I approach dance and choreography, it is very structured in the way that architecture is, and so I'm using a very similar part of my brain.
Some of the same mental framework.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I graduated, but we didn't have enough jobs, and they couldn't hire me.
Well, you were coming off of the 2008, 2009, 2010 time period.
Yep,
there.
Exactly.
So, okay.
And so it's like, okay, so now what? And I let's see, he was my fiance at that time. So my now husband, then fiance, we would just go on walks every night. We'd walk our dog, and it was just kind of dreamed up on those walks. And he's a finance and accounting major, and so he understands the business side of everything. And so he's helped me kind of, just put it together and create a successful business besides just being a successful dance studio.
Right, and even going back, although architecture was first in your mind professionally, but at Washington State, you were on the Washington State University dance team,
Yes.
right? So the idea of starting the dance studio and clearly having the skills, your background, your resume, that actually fit extremely well.
Yes, yeah. So when it was like, okay, what's plan B?
Right.
Well, what's the only other thing that
Yeah.
that I've been doing
Well,
that
what are
I
you
feel
passionate about?
that I feel prepared for?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is. It's 100% a passion, and dance has always been an outlet. A lot of people thought I was crazy doing WSU dance team on top of an architecture major because it's one of the hardest majors down there.
Isn't it a 5-year program no matter what?
Yeah, and so but it was my outlet. It was my way to get away from everything, and I would just go and I would dance, and
Not to
then I would
mention,
come back.
you're
and,
in the core of the Washington State University
which is amazing.
vibe. I mean, obviously
the
Cougar
athletics
football.
and marketing, and
Right.
it was
So
amazing.
as a part of that dance team, that also led to, give me kind of the timeline with Spokane Shock or Empire, because you participated, I think, in both those organizations,
Yes.
didn't you? Okay.
Yeah, so I started the Spokane Shock in 2008.
Oh,
So when
okay.
I was getting done with my
So you weren't even
undergrad.
done with college at that point.
Yeah, so I was commuting from Pullman for the first year of Shock
Okay.
to coach them. And the way that I got into that was some of the girls who I had been a choreographer for their high school dance team had made that team, and then their coach got a different job, and
Okay.
they were needing a new coach.
Somebody
and
that
so
knew somebody.
they actually asked me twice, and I said no the first 2 times, and then the third time finally I was like,
You're like,
okay,
okay,
well,
if you don't stop asking me, I
yeah,
guess I
we'll
gotta
make
do
it
it.
work. And and then 10 years later,
Right.
I finished with, hopefully the franchise is coming back, but
Right.
with them, and enjoyed every moment of it.
So that takes you through, 2008, 2010. Obviously, dance is something that you've done your whole life. But again, I find it interesting that architecture was definitely what you were thinking professionally, but then a bit of the lightning strike on a dance with your now
Right.
or on a walk with your now husband. You decided maybe I should open a dance studio.
Yeah.
Was that a scary prospect to you?
A little bit, but I had a core group of people that and it's always been Spokane Elite has never been just about me.
Right.
I try to make sure that everything's moving in the way that it needs to be moving, but
Right.
it's all about our team. And so, I had myself and my husband, and then Marcy Ray, who's still a teacher. She doesn't teach as many classes as she once did, but she has always been a fundamental part of
the program.
studio. Yeah, and that, we would get done with our walks, and I would text her and say, hey, this is what we talked about. What do you think? Would you want all the leotards to be the same color? Like just a random
I'm actually glad
little
you mentioned
question.
that, though, because I think the way you're kind of, the humor of it is, you may think or one would think, is that a small decision? But when you start, I think you said with potentially 20, 25 kids in your
Yeah.
first class, aren't you up to about 400 kids now?
Yep, we're right at 400.
So although you might laugh at, what color should the leotards be, that's a monumental decision now.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
little decisions are big decisions now.
Yeah.
So
It totally is, yeah. And
I'm
now it's
fascinated
spread
by
through the
that.
entire, it started there, and it's all of the process and the systems that we've built.
That you put in place.
And that are still there.
And you used a word that we use a lot in conversations on Business Talks is systems, and the systems of business, that whether you're starting with 25 students, you still got to pick a facility, you still got to create a scale that works, whether that's a couple instructors for a couple students or many instructors for your now 400 students. So how did you make some of those early decisions when you were at 25? How did you pick the space that you were going to be in?
So the person who helped me find the space was my former jazz instructor.
Okay.
So she had taught me dance for many years. We're still great friends. Her daughter is now on our competition team.
Okay.
And so I had also gone to lunch with her in the midst of all of this, and I didn't have a job, and so I could do lunches all the time.
Yeah, a little time on your hands. See if you can work that into your schedule.
Exactly. And so I just kind of ran the idea by her, just like, hey, I'm kind of thinking about opening a studio. And she just was like, yes,
Yeah.
you need to.
Yeah.
And so she really was the one that took the reins with finding the spaces.
Okay.
And she helped me, go through that whole process, because I had never
Right.
looked at commercial real estate. I mean,
That's not, wasn't,
again,
no need
wasn't,
in your background.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we went around and we knew kind of where we wanted to be location-wise, because there weren't a lot of other
Well, I was going to ask
studios
you
in that area.
Yeah, so what goes into that decision in terms of how did you do that research to statistically know whether, because you're talking about the first Spokane Valley location, right?
Yes, yeah.
So why was that a good location for you?
So we knew we wanted to be near West Valley, simply because that's the team that I've worked with the longest. I've
Okay.
done their choreography for
West Valley High School.
forever. Yeah. And that's, I'm third generation West Valley, and West Valley's a small enough
Community.
that I knew that if we stuck close to that area, that we would be able to build something.
Right.
And
Maybe a foundation
through word
or
of mouth.
base.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And but at the same time, I also knew that there were a few studios in the actual West Valley district
Already.
and I've always believed that there are enough kids in Spokane
Right.
for all of the dance studios.
Right, enough to
that
go
exist.
around, so
Yes.
to speak. Yep.
So I don't ever really see. I just think it's different. People find different studios that appeal to them and that meet what it is that they're looking for.
Yeah, maybe the vibe or fit just
Yeah,
works
yeah.
better for them.
And that area of the valley really only had a lot of ballet.
Okay.
And we were coming in hitting, kind of the jazz and hip hop a little bit harder. We've always had a ballet program. It's a lot stronger than it was when we first started. But we've always been just kind of like more in the jazz and hip hop is kind of where we specialize.
Kind of
and
made
then,
your name maybe early on.
yes,
that
and now
differentiate
ballet
yourself.
has grown with, especially when we added in Shauna for our team, that really helped boost it again. So that was kind of where we were looking, and we had, a few, mile radius
Yeah,
that we were,
some options in
that we
there.
were looking in there, and we came across our first space, and it was, we look back at it now, and it's like, oh, it's cute.
I know, I look back and being
It's all
familiar
this-
with it, and the space that we'll talk about after the break that you then built out,
Yeah.
which is just unreal. But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think what's fascinating is it did what you wanted to
Oh,
to
it
create
totally
that
did.
base.
Yeah.
Let's take a short break and come right back on Business Talks with Maggie Kazemba.
I'm Mike Marzetta from Mind's Eye. One of my life's goals is to never grow up, never have to grow up. What could be worse? My wife, Christy, and I had kind of two fundamental values that kind of led to Mind's Eye's creation. We wanted to make the difference in lives of kids, and we wanted to have fun doing it. Mind's Eye Robotics is a high-quality, hands-on STEM education experience. We try to give the teacher a nice high-tech set of tools. We teach the teachers how to implement the curriculum in the lab, and 90% of it is them building, programming, formatting, designing, inventing. We want Mind's Eye to be cooler than Xbox. We want the kids to go there and come home from school every day and go, wow, I did the coolest thing today, and not necessarily know that they've learned all this stuff. Kids are very passionate about it. You can see that they're having fun, they're excited, they're energetic, they're in the zone. I hear a lot of it, how do I get my kids to do homework? Well, you make it fun, and they come in before class starts, and they stay late, and they're not thinking the extra credit. They're thinking, I'm having too much fun, and I can't put this dang project down. It's college level stuff that they're learning. Change and learning are synonymous, and if you don't change, you get left behind. You got new companies emerging using new technologies and have a high demand for high skilled labor. They're good paying jobs. It'd be great to just hire some local folk to fill those. I think that we've got that kind of potential here in Spokane. We're graduating some great kids. When STCU supports learning, they're supporting our future. So many other organizations out there are so bottom line profit focused. I think they lose focus on what's important. I see STCU helping the greater community outside of it to get better, to learn, to grow, and to progress. We're here to do good. We're here to help the greater good. We're very proud to be able to partner with STCU to that end. I think what's a better place to help the greater good than with helping kids? I'm Mike Marzetta, and STCU is here for good.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
Welcome back to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Maggie Kazemba. Of course, I just called her Kazembo.
It's okay.
When we just got, we're gonna change it up each time we keep coming back to her.
Kazemba.
Yeah, whatever works. But Maggie, Spokane Elite Dance Studio in the Spokane Valley. Right before we left for a break, we were talking about the idea of when a business first starts out and that transition. You found your first space that worked for you at the time, for the scale that you were. I mean, you started with 25 students, a real base probably from West Valley High School and your background there. But then you made the decision at some point where, as you were growing so rapidly, not only did you need new space, but also started to think about business systems to put in place. Talk to us a little bit about what you experienced in that regard.
Yes. So by the end of the first year, we had 60 kids. And then the end of the second year, we had 80. And it was around when we got to 80 that I started just feeling a little overwhelmed by, I was doing everyone's accounts in Excel. And I was, I was using the tools that I knew.
Well, and it works for 25 students.
Yeah, it works great. But then as soon as you're at 80, you've tripled that. And and just my time. At that point, I had my son as well. Okay. And so he was less than a year old, and and
you're running a business.
I needed a little bit of help. And so I found a program that was called Dance Studio Owners Association, and I've been a member ever since then. And their biggest thing is about building systems into dance studios. And so that is where I was able to really take that leap.
Yep.
And, so we decided, okay, we're pretty much maxed out at 80 kids in this current
in your
space.
Current location.
And so we moved, luckily it was in the same building, just the other end of it.
Right.
And we were able to double our capacity, and we did. In that next year, we gained 100 students. And so I'm quickly implementing all of these systems and trying to
pushing Excel spreadsheets to the
side.
Yes,
getting an actual dance studio software. And it was trial and error because, like I said, I went into school with architecture in mind, and so business was never the forefront. And my husband is very busy, and so he helps me a lot, but
he has his own occupation.
Yeah. And so, it's more that he's reviewing the work that I'm doing and giving me some tips and that kind of thing where he can. But a lot of it is still coming organically out of me. But this program just
was
helped.
A game changer.
Yeah. It changed everything.
Well, I think that concept, though, that you've mentioned with architecture or business background, but specifically your background in architecture, there's a systematic approach that I'm sure you learned in your formal education in architecture that does carry over into putting one foot in front of the other to resolve these scale issues that you're dealing with the studio. Yeah,
and that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time.
Right.
That if you do it once the right way,
so you go from
and you
25,
document it,
yep,
then you can apply that now to the next 25 kids with minimal amount of work.
So you went from the 25, 80, and then it was 100. You pushed out to that new space. How many individuals, dancers, if you will, did you have before you went to the new space?
So we stayed at 180 for about 3 years. Okay. And I just was like, I can't figure it out. I don't know.
You mean figure out
why we're not growing
okay,
anymore.
That's interesting.
Because we immediately grew by 100 students.
Yeah. And what do you believe did that? Was that word of mouth? Was that?
I think it was word of mouth, and then also, like I said, just me kind of learning a little bit more about the process of, mainly with the systems, it was retention. It was getting kids to come back, or to refer their friends. So we developed a referral program, and we we really pushed hard to really give value to every single one of our dance families.
Right.
That we wanted them to, because they are so valuable to us.
Right.
They really, really are. Not even just from a business standpoint, but
as a family, as you mentioned.
Yeah, we're working with kids and their families, and I know firsthand with my dance education what that meant to me. And so now to be able to give that to, I'm hoping to as many kids as possible.
You're paying it forward.
Yeah, exactly. And so we want to, I just really learned more about how can I increase the value? How can I educate parents? How can I, bring them into the classroom without them actually being in the classroom always?
But engaging.
Sometimes you're there.
But engaging.
Yes.
I think that's what you're saying is how do we, obviously the dancer is the one you're teaching, so to speak, but having the parent be involved in the process.
Especially becoming a parent, I know how badly I want to be involved in the stuff that they're doing. I want to give them the space and the independence to be able to grow and to develop on their own because the kids need that. But I also want to be there to help them along the way. And if you feel just completely shut out, it's hard to know, how do I help them? What do I talk to them about? Especially if it's something that you're not used to yourself. So, I would say 85% of our parents have never danced before.
Absolutely. I'd say
so they
true.
don't know about what's happening in the classroom. Yeah.
So what do you think at that 180, and I appreciated the way you said that you felt like you'd reached from a business or marketing standpoint, a bit of a ceiling and you couldn't figure out why. At that point, is that about when you were working or collaborating with these associations to come up with some of these ideas?
Yes. And then I learned marketing.
Okay. So you're like,
so then it was a new hat.
Marketing.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, it seems to work apparently.
Apparently,
because you went from 180 to darn near 400.
Yes.
And
in 2 years. Yeah.
In 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I love that. It's a success story. And so, what were you at when you pulled the trigger for the new space? Because it was quite an investment.
Yes.
You found a very nice building in the Spokane Valley, but you did quite a bit of renovation.
Yep.
So cost-wise, you guys made an investment to kind of jump off that diving board, if you will.
Just we had a belief that,
this is where we're going.
Yeah, that this is what we needed and that it's what our dancers needed. So again, going back to the value side of things, I had felt like we're not able to give them what they deserve in this space. And yes, it is a risk to go into this new building and to buy it ourselves and to
absolutely
put it all on the line. But I knew that that's what our dancers deserved, that they needed a bigger space. They needed space of their own, like in the dressing room that they now have that they didn't really have in the previous space.
And so was it, when you made that leap of faith, were you at 200? Were you at 250?
We were at 280.
You were at 280. And then after, of course, making that leap of faith, you're at 400. So it truly was almost that, what's that cliche from Field of Dreams? Build it and they will come. So that worked.
Yes.
That worked.
And it's been mostly now word of mouth.
What do you think is, or you obviously probably know this, what is your capacity at that particular space?
I would say it's probably around 475. That being said, we do need to expand the parking lot already. So that's kind of the next step.
That's interesting, though, that you don't necessarily think about that piece because you don't need to. You don't have that many people. But then when you have that many people...
Yeah, then it's like, we don't have enough parking.
Now we need to think about that.
Yeah. So the lot behind us is going to be developed into additional parking. So that's kind of the next step.
And this, I know along the way, you've definitely indicated as you're scaling where you hold the semi-annual and annual recitals. You've gone from, a lot of times you were at West Valley High School.
Yes.
And now last year you were at the Fox.
At the Fox, yeah.
I mean, giant, amazing theater. So you've also had to, did you ever think you'd be hosting something at the Fox?
Not this soon.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing.
All of this was planned. Just it was not planned this fast.
Quickly.
Yeah. But it's been incredible, and I'm beyond grateful that it's happened. And And I know that I work hard for it, that it's,
well, I think
it's not just luck, but at the same time, we have incredible people.
Well, what do they say? The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
And I think it's true in a lot of cases because it hasn't been an accident. You have systematically, as you're describing today, you made decisions on the proportional scale of day one with 25 individuals with West Valley Foundation. As you put one block on top of the other, you've grown to 400 systematically. Yeah. It's impressive.
Yeah, now, the university district is just huge for us.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's kind of switched over to mostly U-High, some CV as well.
So starting really the West Valley Foundation, the word of mouth, marketing. So what would you say is one of your biggest, maybe, I don't know if challenge is the right word, but challenge or something you'd want to resolve in this next calendar year? What's on the plate right now that's obviously, as you described very well, that's changed year to year and faster and faster those decisions are put in front of you. What would you like to see changed maybe in the next year? Not even necessarily changed, but
just what's kind of in the works for the next year?
Yeah.
I want to really, this is every year we have a retreat for our instructors, and we talk a lot about, what our goals are for the next year. And I think every single year we've met those goals or exceeded them. The biggest thing that came away from this last year's retreat is that we want to really develop our space now. So we got moved in pretty quickly.
You're in, you're filling it out.
And, so year one in our new building, it's beautiful, but it's still, we're learning how to use it. And so it's really kind of, I think the word that we took away a lot from it was to create a sanctuary for these kids.
Well, and a lot of them are there 2, 3, 4, 5 days a week.
Yes,
so it
and
is
for
a sanctuary.
hours. Yeah, right. And we want them to feel comfortable. We want them to also respect it. That's where the word sanctuary really came from. Was, so I think that's really our focus now. Is how do we instill our core values into a space,
right?
Because I think that's just going to enhance it even more. And like I said, the growth we've had this year was somewhat unexpected, a little bit, because it was all word of mouth. I slowed down on the marketing side a little bit because it was like, okay, we're doing okay.
Take your foot off the gas a little bit.
Let's focus on the space, and it still just came.
Yeah, ironically, it just keeps coming.
Yep.
I wish we had a little more time, and I hope you come back and chat more, because I also would have wanted to get into talking about how you've done such a good job of creating not only the different genres of ballet, lyrical, hip-hop, but your all-star team and all the amazing events you guys have been going to. But how can people find you?
It is SpokaneEliteDance.com.
Perfect.
And that has all of our information. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram.
Perfect. I would encourage folks to follow Maggie and Spokane Elite Dance. Go check it out if you're looking for a place for your kids to participate. It's one of the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.